Hi, this is Lucy Malenke from the James Madison University Writing Center. In this video, we'll show you how to integrate words and ideas from outside sources into your writing. Let's start by thinking about the concept of intellectual property. There are a lot of good ideas in the world, and no one expects you to have all of them. So when you want to use someone else's words, ideas, or images in a paper you're writing, you need to give credit by explaining where those words, ideas, or images came from. There are three different methods for giving credit: paraphrase, summary, and quotation. Whichever method you use, you'll also be expected to provide a citation and corresponding reference list entry so that your readers can access the original source if they want to. I'm going to spend some more time on each of the three different ways you can incorporate source material into your writing. Let's begin with summary, which is a brief, highly condensed overview that identifies the most important information in a longer text. Summary is an act of compression. Whether you're dealing with an article or an entire book or even a film, your job is to take that source or the section you're focusing on and condense it. Depending on your writing assignment, that summary may be as short as a few words or as long as a few paragraphs. Your job, when summarizing, is to identify the main ideas in the source and to describe them in your own words. Summary is a great tool for assignments like annotated bibliographies and literature reviews, which require you to create brief synopses from multiple sources. It's also a good tool for comparing and contrasting sources. For instance, talking about the similarities and differences in findings or research methods for a number of studies. If you are able to summarize well, you demonstrate to your readers that you are capable of identifying key concepts. You also show that you are able to synthesize information, that is, combine multiple ideas into a coherent whole. Here's an example of a summary of an article that appeared in a 2010 issue of Science magazine. The article, entitled "A Wondering Mind is an Unhappy Mind," was written by social psychologists Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert. You could use this article for a research paper on interventions for mild to moderate depression. Or perhaps you're writing about the benefits of practicing mindfulness meditation for nurses. This summary quickly encapsulates the key ideas in the article. Mind-wandering occurs often, regardless of the activities people are engaged in, and it has a negative impact on mood. While the words mind-wandering and activity and impact appeared in the article, none of the phrases in this summary came directly from the article. The writer of this summary explained the article in her own words. Also, take note of the APA-style citation. This parenthetical citation not only gives credit for the ideas in the sentence, it also provides a way for interested readers to locate more information about the original article in the reference list, and it adds credibility to the claim in the sentence. Another way to incorporate source material into your writing is to paraphrase. Paraphrasing involves taking a short selection from the text, usually no more than a couple of sentences, and translating it into your own words. Paraphrasing can be difficult because it requires you to use different words, style, and sentence structure to rephrase the original selection from the text. Unlike summary, paraphrases typically are about the same length as the original phrase or sentence. Paraphrasing demands creativity and caution, but don't let that scare you away. It is a great way to explain a concept or idea without inserting a long quotation, which will interrupt the flow of your paper. Paraphrasing allows you to maintain your own style, tone, and voice. It also is useful when you want to provide specific evidence or examples from a text, for instance, a key finding from a study or a fact from a report. Your ability to paraphrase well can boost your ethos as a writer and thinker by demonstrating that you can effectively explain concepts in your own words. Paraphrasing is not simply a matter of replacing a few words in a sentence. Let's look at a quote from the Killingsworth and Gilbert article on mind-wandering. They wrote, "Although negative moods are known to cause mind-wandering, time lag analyses strongly suggested that mind-wandering in our sample was generally the cause and not merely the consequence of unhappiness. And let's look at the paraphrase version on the right, in which the writer used a thesaurus tool to replace some key words throughout the sentence. The paraphrase reads, "Although bad moods are known to cause distraction, time lag analyses strongly implied that mind-wandering in our experiment was generally the cause and not merely the effect of unhappiness." Because this paraphrase doesn't use a different style and sentence structure, it is actually considered plagiarism. If we compare the two versions, highlighting repeated words and phrases in red, we see that about 3/4 of the paraphrase version uses the exact words and phrases from the original, which means this isn't a paraphrase at all. The newer version is also problematic because it still contains the word our, which the original authors used to reference themselves. Additionally, the word distraction may not be an appropriate synonym for mind-wandering in this particular case. So let's take a look at an effective paraphrase. This version says, "In a study by Killingsworth and Gilbert, most respondents experienced unhappiness after their minds wandered, not beforehand. Although bad moods can trigger mind-wandering, this study indicated that mind-wandering generally precedes unhappiness." We can see here that the writer of this paraphrase introduced the ideas in a different order than the original. He also chose to divide the paraphrase into 2 sentences, creating a different structure. While some of the original words, such as unhappiness and mind-wandering, necessarily appear in this paraphrase, the phrases containing those words are different. Also, notice that this author included an in-text citation. Directly mentioning the authors in the body of the sentence, followed by the publication date in parentheses, is another way to cite in APA style. If you have concerns about how to paraphrase properly, refer to a style manual, talk to your professor, or visit the University Writing Center. The final way to incorporate outside sources into your writing is to use quotation, a word-for-word excerpt from the text framed by quotation marks. In humanities disciplines, such as English and history, direct quotation is used frequently to present evidence from outside sources. However, in scientific disciplines, quotations are used much less often. It's not unusual for an empirical journal article to contain no quotations at all. The reason for this is that quotations interrupt the flow of a paper, and often they can be phrased in a more concise or direct manner. There are a few occasions in which it is appropriate to use quotation in science or research-based writing. If you are introducing a new term that has been coined by someone else, you can frame that term in quotation marks. Additionally, if you need to incorporate a short definition from an outside source, such as a medical dictionary or manual, it may be appropriate to quote that definition. Finally, if you need to provide evidence for qualitative observations, such as a study participant's manner of speaking or attitudes, quotation may be a good way to do that. In each of these cases, the selection should be placed in quotation marks and paired with an explanation and citation. Remember, if you're writing an APA-style paper, you should only use quotation if the precise wording is important. Otherwise, paraphrase and summary are much better options. Here's an example of a partial quotation that highlights some key phrases from the final paragraph of the Killingsworth and Gilbert article. The researchers called mind-wandering a cognitive achievement, but warned that it has an emotional cost. Notice that the citation in this sentence contains a page number. APA guidelines require you to include page numbers when you directly quote an outside source, but not when you summarize or paraphrase. A few final tips for incorporating outside sources into your writing. You may have been trained in your English classes to focus on authors when you discuss outside sources. For example, you're probably used to writing things like, "Dr. Gilbert said X," or "According to Dr. Killingsworth, X is the case. But science writing is a little different because the findings of a study tend to be emphasized more than the person or people who conducted that study. For that reason, your writing will likely focus on findings, studies, or discoveries rather than individual authors or researchers. You'll use phrases like research by Killingsworth and Gilbert reveals X, or even several recent studies challenge idea X. As you incorporate source material into your writing, make sure it serves a clear purpose. For instance, summaries and paraphrases might provide evidence for a claim or an example of a theory. If you can't figure out the function of a paraphrase or summary, you may be able to cut it. And most importantly, remember to cite all sources of information, whether you are summarizing, paraphrasing, or directly quoting. This not only gives credit to those who deserve it, but it also enhances your credibility by showing that you know how to draw upon outside expertise. Good luck with your writing, and if you encounter any trouble along the way, remember that the University Writing Center is here to help. Schedule an appointment with a tutor, check out our online tips and resources, or use our Chat with a Tutor Now service.